And I see 10 plus 10. I don't know how to do a total here. I think we should give it a few minutes, everyone dialing in.
Yeah, it's usually the first thing in the morning, people kind of, you know, a bit slow, people getting in and work and traffic and
getting their coffee. So. And I love hearing that your traffic, we're still not seeing that here in California. It is still very strong shelter in place. And also we're seeing, you know, the major companies in Silicon Valley now announcing that employees can work from home until summer of next year. So Google started that trend with Facebook. Now Intel just announced this week. So I think, I don't know how you're seeing in Beijing, but I think for the next year, you know, it'll be a little bit.
We're full on here in Beijing already. School will start. It's a vacation month, so everybody's doing vacation stuff this month.
Yeah.
School starts in September, so we're back to full work, pretty much.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, school started for my twin daughters, 4th grade, and it started online. So they're hoping to do at least a hybrid October timeframe to go in small classes, half days, 2 days a week. But so I would say the U.S. is a tiny bit behind the managing our pandemic, but we'll get there.
Okay, I think we're at 9:01. Yes, if I'm okay. My thing. I think just to be because we're recording, and also I want to just be cognizant of everybody's time. We'll go ahead and start if that's okay with everybody, and people will just come in. Yeah. All right. Wonderful. All right. Good morning. Good afternoon. Good evenings. Everywhere. I think we have the global community here. My name is Cheng here at Simpson, and as the American Chamber of Commerce Board of Governors, thank you for joining our webinar, Driving Innovation and Positive Change for Our Diverse Global Communities. So I'm so excited today because you're in for a treat. We have amazing leaders from around the globe speaking today from Seattle, Palo Alto, London, Hong Kong, and Beijing. So we've been working on this webinar for over a month and a half, I believe, and is the brainchild of Sharon Kesner, our host today. She is Chayora's Head of Americas and Executive Vice President and a member of our Women's Advisory Council. So thank you, Sharon, and over to you.
Fantastic, thank you. Okay, Kat, next slide, please. Fantastic. So just quickly, we have 90 minutes together this morning, and we will start by a quick introduction about why we brought this community together and what our mission is here. And then I'm asking each of the communities, to the founders and leaders of those organizations, to give a quick 5 minutes on their network and organization. And then we are honored to have Dr. Sharon Chan, who has joined us as our Spotlight on China speaker. And I'll talk a little bit more about her when we get to that. Then we're going, after Sharon, we are going to have a pop panel, I'm going to call it, specific questions to each of the leaders on current events. And then we'll have a wrap up and what's next. Next slide, Kat. Okay, so just quickly, who is Chayora? So as Sue mentioned, we were delighted to join at the beginning of the year. I had met Sue through the AmCham China Technology and Innovation Summit last year, and we immediately clicked, if you will, and was very excited as Chayora, as a company, to support what the Women's Advisory Council is doing in China and connecting around the globe. So Chayora is a Hong Kong-based company. I had the Americas for them sitting here in Palo Alto. We are a data services provider and operator that we are exclusively in mainland China. So we sit in Tianjin. We're opening our first data center next month. We're having a huge launch around that in October. So at the end, you'll see more information on that. And we're in the process of developing a series of connected campuses throughout China. The next city will be Shanghai. Next, and I also wanted to say one of the things I love, that's okay, next slide, Kat. One of the things I really have to say I've been admiring about China and Chayora is the women presence that there is. You know, myself, who heads up Americas, our head of marketing and sales operations, our CFO, our head of network, very, very supportive of diversity and inclusion, education, and women empowerment. And not only Chayora, but my experience working in China has just been a delight. So our mission together of these groups coming together. So we have the Women's Advisory Council, founded by Sue. We have the Women's Technology Forum. We have a founder here today, Sarah McComb. And then we have the Global Women's Telco and Tech. We have leader Georgia on the phone here. And our mission really is bringing 3 groups together around the globe to talk about and share best practices in innovation, diversity and inclusion, and education, and what that means. And we had the idea and the vision to bring these groups together from me working on global projects and levels and meeting each of these groups and super impressed in what they're doing. So very excited to be part of the mission and to be bringing this group under one umbrella today to talk to the panel here. So the next we're going to do is I'm going to ask each of the leaders of the group to take 5 minutes and talk about what they're about and what their passions are. And then we're going to go to our spotlight speaker on China. And then we're going to have a pop panel. So next slide, Kat. So as I had mentioned, Sue is the founder of the Women's Advisory Council. She's going to give you a little bit more about that. We've been working together for over a year, and I could go on about several stories about working with Sue and just having, so much fun. And, now the pandemic here has moved us, quicker as a society, right, into digital transformation and building relationships like you see today through video conferences. So I feel, Sue, we've kept up our relationship, speaking once a week and almost like we are together once a week. So over to you.
Thank you so much, Karen. Again, my name is Sue Cheng Harris Simpson, and that's my English name. And then my Chinese name is Wu, which is W. So on my card, if you ever see a card in China, it's one side is English and the other side is Chinese. So I am completely inclusive. My father's last name is Harris. My husband's name is Simpson, and my mother's name is Wu. So I'm all about inclusiveness. And as a social entrepreneur, I'm the founder and CEO of SCHS Asia and now the Women's Advisory Council. And also, as I mentioned earlier, on the board of AmCham China. Our company's mission is to empower and support women to be their best, both personally and professionally, by working with enlightened and innovative companies and partners in the areas of leadership, advocacy, and intra or entrepreneurship. In my 25 years of working in China, I have joined, organized, and supported many women's groups, and today I continue to do so because it's truly a real passion of mine. Now, about 5 or 6 years ago, I was attending many conferences and so forth, and there was a bug in the back of my mind that kept asking this question. As I was, I'm dating myself here, over 30 plus years ago when I first started my career at the Boeing company in Seattle. Back then, it was 70 cents to $1 pay gap. And I believe today is 80. So about 5 years ago, I kept asking, why haven't we moved the needle? I mean, great, we can celebrate the 10 cents in 30 years or so, but I really thought we can move ahead faster and so forth. And as many of you know, the UN Women basically said that it'll take about another 100 years for us to reach gender equality. Well, I don't know about you, but that is not good enough, and that is not fast enough for myself and our daughter. So with that said, we partner with AmCham China, and we launched the first Women's Economy Summit. And truly, it was to bring global together. We have lots of summits and things like that here in China, but I wanted to bring the global best practices and working together. So it was a labor of love for many of you who have organized, conferences, events that are 200-300 people. You know what I mean. But I felt very blessed that we had amazing support from organizations such as UN Women, All China Women's Federation, various country ambassadors, Lean in China, Women's Professional Network, Viva, individuals and corporations. So you can see there is a lot of work that's going toward this. But I felt there was a need for a platform to pull everybody together. So the goal of the Women's Economy Summit was to be a platform for all the incredible organizations, some mentioned above, both public and private, to come together and engage, learn, benchmark, share best practices, so we can move the needle to closing the gaps that continue to hold women back in the workplace, communities, and society, both locally and globally. I know it's a big, hairy, audacious goal. When I wrote this, somebody said, "What's hairy?" I guess this is more of American terminology in the sense of that, well, it's a big, big goal. But so we have to go for it. For those who know me, I believe in going big. That is my motto. Why not? We have to think and go big. But what I learned quickly is that the summit alone is only one piece of the puzzle. I realized that in order for us to be sustainable, we need to bring together like-minded individuals and companies, stakeholders, that is committed to being on this journey with us. So thus the Women Advisory Council was founded with the support of AmCham China and was officially launched December of last year. So today we have 9 members. We have BP, Chayora, Dow, ExxonMobil, Johnson & Johnson, Merck, Mars, Microsoft, and SHS Asia. And I'm very proud because it is really a labor of love of all these amazing people that come together to support this effort. We have monthly workshops and the webinars such as this one that we're having today, networking events, but because of COVID, we will start very soon. We have Executive Roundtable, which we're having next week in Shanghai, and we'll launch a few new initiatives such as the Girls in STEM with 2 M's, science, technology, engineering, math, and medicine. We'll also be doing a pay gap report and other new initiatives that we launched in our October Women's Summit. That's 21st, 22nd, 23rd online. So we want to be able to, again, have this platform where we bring together and share all the amazing things that companies, individuals, and the community is doing to bridge that gap. So we really do need to move that needle faster, because I have a daughter who's 18, and I pray to God that we're not talking about closing this gap and so forth, 20, 30, 50 years from now. So I invite everybody to join us. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you so much. Okay, next slide, Kat. So the next community that we have is our founder is with us today, Sarah McComb. And I had met Sarah through networking in several trade shows and events. I think specifically, Sarah, we might have met at the ITW in one of the places in the US. But probably what I noticed, yeah, exactly. So, and I met you also, and at the time you might have been a customer of the company I was working for. But one of the things that I noticed immediately about Sarah when we started, pushing the business aside and talking about passion in what we're looking for in the community, empowering and bringing women together, and the importance of innovation and diversity and inclusion and education, was how open is. So you're immediately engaging, and how safe you immediately have everyone feel around you to talk about these issues in a very non-judgmental way. So it's absolutely a delight that she's joined here with Women's Tech Forum. So over to you, Sarah.
Sure. Hi, everybody. As Karen said, my name is Sarah McComb. I am one of the co-founders of the Women's Tech Forum, affectionately known as WTF. And yes, we did pick those acronyms specifically on purpose. So We were founded in 2017, and it was myself and 3 of my very good friends that I met through this industry. Our sort of birth story, if you will, is, I think, the way that the best things happen, sitting with a beer at a picnic table in Hawaii. The 4 of us were at the PTC conference, which is a large conference that happens in our industry every year. And we had known each other for anywhere from 10 years or more by that point in time, and had been looking around going, okay, we know each other and we support each other, but where are all the rest of the women? We did not see many women represented, and the ones we did, we didn't really know, and we didn't really have an opportunity to connect with them. So from that, Women's Tech Forum was born, and we had our first event at the ITW conference just a couple of months later. So our mission is the promotion and advancement of women in the cloud, data center, and telecom industries. So we focus on sort of traditional networking initiatives there. We have currently over 1,300 members that have joined us at events or signed up through our website or have attended our master classes. And what we do that is relatively unique is we really provide a safe space for women in the industry to be able to network and come together around common experiences. If anyone has ever been to any of our events in person, to date, our events have been women only. We understand that there are people out there, both men and women, that don't like the fact that they are women only. And we know this, and we are addressing it, and we are finding ways to bring in allies to our events. But we have to be very careful, because we recognize the fact that women don't often get an opportunity to just talk to each other and have that unique conversation. And as soon as another gender comes into the room, the conversation shifts, the focus shifts, the air shifts. So we've really found that there is a lot of power in providing those women with that safe space to connect together. Our ultimate goal is to, quite frankly, not exist at all. We are promoting diversity and inclusion. We want to reach parity. We want to reach equity. We want to not have to exist, because that means that we have accomplished our goal. To date, we have started with our main focus has been these networking sessions in person at major conferences like PTC, ITW, the NANOG conferences, and the capacity conferences. But with COVID, just like everything else, we had to shift our model. So we have shifted to a masterclass series. We've done 4 of them so far. They are all available on our website. And it's been a great success, because we've been able to delve into topics that affect not only women, but men as well, that affect people of color and across the diversity spectrum. And so we've really enjoyed being able to do that. And we've got more coming up later this year. And depending on how COVID goes and what our world looks like on the other side of it, we'll be back in person one of these days as well. And then finally, I guess, so we are basically, we are a nonprofit organization, and we are not focused on selling whatsoever. So the 2 rules that we have is no selling, and you introduce yourself to someone that you don't know. So anytime you're able to join us, we would love to have you.
You're on mute, Karen.
Oh, thank you. You can hear my lips, but there you have it. Okay, and our last group here is the Global Women in Telco and Tech. And again, I met Georgia and Vanessa at a show. You see a theme there. You know, I think to Sarah's point, when you go around to these shows, you know, all over the world, but I would say in the US especially, you know, you often find yourself, you know, 10 women and 50 men in a room or something like that. So I think naturally we all gravitate towards each other. But I had the pleasure of sitting next to Vanessa at a dinner, and she was talking about her passion and mission, what her and Georgia are leading here for the GWTT. So over to you, Georgia.
Hi everyone. As Karen mentioned, I'm Georgia. So I am the lead for Global Women in Telco and Tech. We are kind of the new kids on the block in terms of organizations. So in terms of how we kind of stem. Also, I'm the producer of the ITW conference that quite a few people have mentioned here already. Essentially, what happened is that we would always run these, women's panels at our separate events throughout capacity throughout the year, and we basically just kind of sat back and we're like, it's not enough. It's something that we need to be expanding, and similar to how it's kind of been said already on this panel, the needle is not moving fast enough, so we need to do more. Having the platform that we have through events. So our original idea was actually to launch an award series that would highlight the champions that we have across the industry, really try and bring some more names forward out of the woodwork and really kind of showcase the amazing people that we should be seeing more of at conferences and kind of like on our stages speaking and sharing their experiences. That being said, even then at that stage, we're like, nope, this is still not enough. We need to be doing more, after which the summit was born, which was launched alongside the awards September last year and happening again virtually this year, end of September. With that, we have also launched the kind of initiative that's running throughout the year. So our aim is we're having the summit as the touch point once a year, but then throughout that running different activities. So with the main goal kind of being that we want to bring everyone together so that we can discuss, that we can measure, and we can almost have like these different points around the globe where we can say, okay, well, what's going on at a local level, and then how does that tie into how we're doing as an industry globally. So we partner with various organizations throughout the year in order to run various sessions, be it virtually or at our other huge conferences such as Capacity Middle East, ITW, Capacity Europe. And then we aim to bring everyone together again at the summit. And then throughout the year, besides that, also release resources. We have also now launched within our magazine, we have a dedicated diversity and inclusion section. So it's something that we are really trying to push as kind of as a brand that's not necessarily kind of like in telecoms in terms of in the company sector, but as someone who kind of stands back and provides information for the industry, make sure that we're providing this along with all of the other business intelligence that we're giving as well. So that's how it started. We also have advocates throughout the year who participate and help consult and help drive the direction of this. And and because we're relatively new, we're constantly developing new things that we can do. So currently we have the summit and presence through panels, but we're also looking at launching new things kind of geared more towards the graduate level. And alongside that, also white papers and other special reports that we have throughout the year. So watch this space for us, really. And back to you, Karen.
Great, thank you, Georgia. I mean, it's incredible the amount of work and organization that you did, and I didn't actually realize that you were the one for ITW. So there you have it. A lot of us have messed through that. So next slide. So it's our honor to have Dr. Sharon Chan with us. She is so as we look at doing these types of sessions, the communities here, Sarah, Georgia, myself, Sue, have talked about, what do we do with this? And we'll talk about that at the very end. But today, the spotlight is on China. So we have the honor of Dr. Chan joining us, who was recently named through the Forbes China as one of the top 50 women in tech. And a part of that accreditation is the work that she's doing in STEM and around JLABS in Shanghai through Johnson & Johnson. The JLABS is one of, I think, 31, Sharon, globally, but Shanghai is the largest of that. And in that facility, it's incredible. Take a minute and look them up online. Just incredible what the labs is doing for, not only in STEM, but women, and promoting, ideas and different, innovation moving forward. So with that, over to you, Dr. Chan.
Thanks, Karen. We can move to the first slide, please. Wonderful. As a child, I was taught to dream of a life beyond the walls of my parents' fish and chip shop. My parents moved from China to Hong Kong in the 1950s, and then in the 1970s emigrated to the UK, hoping to build a better life for their young family. My early childhood wasn't easy. My parents couldn't speak English, and to make ends meet, my father, a trained engineer, taught himself how to cook so that he could work in a Chinese restaurant. So from the time I was a little girl, my father instilled in me an insane work ethic. Working 7 days a week for years, he was able to start his own restaurant and transform China Garden into a chain. Not a single weekend went by that I didn't have to wash dishes, wait on tables, stand at the tills, and wrap up fish and chips. To this day, if you ask me any number on the takeaway menu, I can for sure tell you the name of the dish. My mother was a nurse, and I will remember her as someone who put others first, including her patients. She came from a big family, 13 brothers, sisters, half-brothers and half-sisters, and like my father, was a hard worker. During the day, she worked in the hospital operating room, and at night she took shifts in the general wards to care for the elderly. As my dad's businesses expanded, she gave up her work in nursing to ensure our family business would succeed. So growing up, I was fortunate to have parents who demonstrated that hard work plus dreams plus dedication equals success. They forged in me the strong belief that I could achieve whatever I wanted to if I pursued it with passion and an entrepreneurial spirit. And I gained a deep respect for the courage they must have had to uproot their lives, leave all they knew behind, and transform their careers, sometimes just to survive. The courage to pursue their dreams enabled them to open their own fish and chips business, expand it to 5 restaurants, and save money, enough money to send my brother and I to university. My passion today is to help startups achieve their dreams. It's a passion that comes from seeing in the eyes of our startups the same pride I saw in my father when opening his first business and helping it grow. This courage has led me to pursue a path I believe is less traveled by most women. So I'm humbled and honored today to be here among so many distinguished women who have dedicated their lives to nurturing, promoting, and pioneering female leadership in Asia and around the world. I'm here to share my story of transformation or pivots in the hopes that my path may help inform or inspire the next generation of women leaders, and maybe even a few men. My first big pivot came at university. Next slide, please. At school, from a young age, science was my passion. I absolutely loved it. I'd always wanted to be a pharmacist, as chemistry was my favorite subject. Thanks to my parents' encouragement and my own hard work, I won a place at Oxford University to study chemistry. But within a matter of weeks, I discovered that I wasn't prepared to handle the intensity of the maths the major required. Looking back, I lacked a strong support system. My parents had never been to university, nor did I have any mentors or a community to lean on. I was devastated to find myself struggling in a field I'd worked so hard to pursue. Going from an all-girls public school where I'd excelled to classes where 3/4 of the classmates were male and from elite boarding schools, I felt truly out of place and lost. Yet I knew my parents would not tolerate self-doubt or self-pity. So I picked myself up, brushed aside these thoughts, and after 8 weeks, changed course and switched to biochemistry, which I found to be a friendlier home with supportive teachers and classmates. This was to be the first in a series of career pivots that would bring me closer to a life in science in service of others. Science continued to be my calling, and I went on to study for a PhD in cardiovascular medicine before graduating and looking for a job. It's now mid-2003, and I'm a fresh graduate with no income, and a rapidly dwindling bank account venturing into Camden Town, London in search for a job. Next slide, please. Now, Camden is no Knightsbridge or Chelsea. It's a little bit rougher. There are drug dealers on the street, and the sight of fluorescent orange police tape across the road to mark the scene of a murder or some other crime was not uncommon. I knew back then that I was not interested in a career in management consulting or intellectual property law or working in the city. I wanted to pursue my love of science to help patients. Somehow, I found myself taking an interview with a little-known Japanese biotech startup. And after 2.5 hours of some very stimulating conversations, my gut instincts told me this startup had a really amazing business model. And regardless of its dodgy location, I took the job. For 3 years, I walked past the notorious Camden Ripper's apartment and stepped over syringes. We even had a break-in where our front door made of glass was smashed up all over, and my desk was ransacked. But every journey to Camden was worth it. Within 6 months, this unknown biotech IPO'd, and a year later, we acquired another company. In this short period of time, we went from 5 humble employees to nearly 150 people. I felt I was on an absolute roll and hungry for more. From my early days of our marriage, my husband has been a true partner in my career adventures. One day in 2006, he said, "Let's travel. Let's go anywhere you want." And so I paused, looked at him and said, "How about if I land a job in either India or China?" Both had double-digit economies. Both were undergoing dramatic healthcare reform. Both had strong projections of phenomenal pharmaceutical market size growth, and both had delicious food. Leaving and packing up London was a question of not why, but why not. And so I landed what I believed was an awesome job at Baxter in business development in their Asia Pacific headquarters in Shanghai. Next slide, please. It was a company of over 47,000 global employees, which was a daunting size for someone used to working at a startup. Baxter had me cover a range of science across kidney dialysis, blood clotting biologicals, intravenous medications for cancer, and so on. I worked on mergers and acquisitions, in and out licensing, divestitures, and anything that was related to external partnerships and forming strategic alliances. I loved it. Then, my first child arrived in 2010. I had managed to adapt to a grueling travel schedule and had an amazing employer who supported women in the workforce. However, by 2012, when I had my second child, so 2 children under the age of 3, my priorities changed and I stopped work. Next slide, please. That was not an easy decision. At first, I worried about what it would mean for my career, and I felt guilty about not going to work. And it was particularly hard because my parents had taught me that there are no shortcuts in life, that hard work is a virtue. But as difficult as that decision was, I went ahead and took a career break. A child needs its mother, and back then, I thought I knew I wasn't going to stop work forever. So why can't I have some me time and focus on bringing a couple of lives into the world with the right start? I decided that love is important, regardless of what business deal I was chasing or job promotion I was after. Fast forward to today, I have no guilt, and probably wouldn't be here if I hadn't taken that break. I wouldn't have had the time to ask, what in life am I passionate about? And as a way to make myself feel better, during the 15 months that I had off, I enrolled in an executive MBA program. Again, if there's anything that my parents instilled in me, it was to work and study hard. With ample time to look at the movers and shakers in the field of science, I read that Bill Gates was voted one of the most influential people in biopharma. Intrigued, I did my Google research, and within weeks, I was interviewing with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation with the aim to build a presence in China for their work in tuberculosis vaccines. 14 interviews later, I got the offer. Career-wise, this ticked all the boxes. It was an opportunity to make a real difference, an honorable mission. This was how I could apply my passion for science to bring real help to the people who needed it the most. I was creating partnerships left, right, and center, and I felt I was truly changing the world. But after 5 years in Beijing, working with governments, academia, patients, clinicians, other not-for-profits, and even high net worth individuals, I came to understand something tremendously important. I realized that if the Gates Foundation ever wanted to get out a product like a TB vaccine, and I really wanted to save lives and make good medicines more accessible and affordable to the world, in my opinion, I would need a partner like Johnson & Johnson. No matter how much money you throw at the problem, without an industry or commercialization partner, no one, not even Bill Gates, can do this alone. And that is how I found myself working back at a big pharma organization. And that is why I'm now so excited to tell you about JLABS. Next slide, please. Johnson & Johnson Innovation JLABS is unique. Our network of 13 incubators is the brainchild of Melinda Richter, a tech executive and serial entrepreneur who started the first JLABS in San Diego and has totally transformed the way I look at healthcare. She's taught me that a great idea can come from anywhere, but when an idea comes from outside the organization, it faces so many hurdles. These hurdles are even greater for the life sciences. And a great example of this is the differences between technology and healthcare in terms of their time for commercialization. Next slide, please. In technology, you can get a couple of guys, give them a couple $100,000, and boom, you have Uber, Facebook, DD, or WeChat. Nice and quick, just like a rap song. On the other hand, in healthcare, I feel like it's an opera. You need to gather a group of experts in science and in business, have infrastructure like equipment and labs, which can cost millions and millions of dollars, conduct multiple experiments, do clinical trials, which can take years and years, and then get regulatory approval. And if you can get through all of that, which only 5% ever do, as science fails, you need someone who's going to pay for it. Few people have the time or the money to do this. These two journeys are very different, and I believe they aren't suitable for entrepreneurs who simply want to do good science for the good of the world. JLABS provides the solution, and it's just one tool from Johnson & Johnson's toolbox to nurture innovation. Next slide, please. JLABS provides a capital-efficient and flexible model so entrepreneurs can take their game-changing ideas of today and transform them into the breakthrough products of tomorrow. Essentially, JLABS is a network of no-strings-attached incubators and co-working spaces that have offices as well as labs. No strings attached means JLABS does not take the equity or IP from the startup teams. That is, everything still belongs to the original team. There are labs for researchers to do big science, biology, chemistry, design prototypes, and to test their concepts. You can work on robotic needles to help detect lung cancer, develop novel therapeutics with the goal of beating Alzheimer's, design mobile phone apps to monitor how skin reacts to new beauty products, or develop exciting AI, IoT, and blockchain tools to be used in hospitals for surgery patients. JLABS, however, is more than just about providing infrastructure and a place to work. We also connect our in-house experts with entrepreneurs, leveraging Johnson & Johnson's talented workforce for a mentoring program we call JPOWs, so that entrepreneurs from day one are thinking about how to transform their idea into a real product that meets a patient or consumer need. We provide small companies access to investors by asking VCs to come in and hold open office hours. We give small companies the resources of a big company, and of course, we provide them with educational programming and our communication platforms. Our educational programming brings custom-made events to our innovators. For example, if a startup wants to learn about blockchain, we'll bring in tech experts to teach them. If they want to know how to legally set up their business, we'll bring in people from top law firms. Or if they want to know how medical devices are approved, we'll bring in regulatory experts to share best practices. All in all, JLABS removes the obstacles that entrepreneurs face. Next slide, please. Industry needs innovation, small, nimble teams, and cost savings. Entrepreneurs need infrastructure, capital, and expertise. Because industry and innovators need each other, JLABS pairs with startups to proudly tackle the world's biggest problems. So, as head of JLABS at Shanghai, I have the awesome responsibility of building and creating this for entrepreneurs in Shanghai. I'm responsible for Johnson & Johnson's largest JLABS, partnered with the Shanghai Municipal Government, the Pudong New Area Government, and Shanghai Pharma Engine. And we're easily able to house over 50 startups. JLABS at Shanghai contains all the cool scientific gadgets like flow cytometers, LC mass spectrometers, fluorescent microscopes, 3D printers, and more, all with the aim to help scientists start up fast and potentially change the world. So if you're an entrepreneur and have a great idea, a VC that likes early stage transformative research, or you're from another biotech or health tech company, I'd love to hear from you. My call for action is, let's work together. I certainly value your partnership. And in China, this is just the beginning. Next slide, please. We've been open for 14 months, and we've had some incredible successes to date from our 42 startup residents, such as an IPO on the Korean Stock Exchange. 3 startups have signed deals with Johnson & Johnson, 6 graduations, and collectively at JLABS at Shanghai alone, our companies have raised over $3.1 billion in financing and strategic partnerships. Without a doubt, we have creativity, speed, passion, agility, hunger, boldness, and disruption. I'm proud to be part of the journey, and you can be too. We've accommodated life science startups across pharma, medical devices, and consumer health. When I asked myself what's been the secret to our success and what best practice I can share with audiences to help you achieve your full potential, I could quite happily talk about operational best practices such as health and safety, good coffee, and comfortable furniture. But as a thought leader in innovation, here's what is important to me: a life of service. Next slide, please. I have always served people. From my teenage years, waiting on customers in my dad's fish and chip shops and Chinese restaurants, to my university summer holidays volunteering at Oxfam, to my work today mentoring our startups. In practicing servant leaderships, I put others ahead of myself. This has been the single most important leadership trait I've embraced. Serving others is important at JLABS, where we help entrepreneurs accelerate their healthcare ideas and solutions with the aim to enhance and save lives around the world. So I'm here to support my resident JLABS CEOs 24/7. I'm walking in their shoes, removing roadblocks they face. Trust doesn't happen overnight, but when your only agenda is setting someone else up for success, your words tend to be received more openly. With my team, I seek to ask rather than tell, to listen and actively value others' needs and contributions. I feel this has translated into better results and more thoughtful and balanced discussions. Servant leadership is one of my core philosophies, and it continues to guide me day to day, running the world's largest JLABS, to watch our startups succeed and to help me get through some tough challenges. Secondly, never has the importance of reskilling and acting with agility in the face of uncertainty been clearer than in these COVID-19 times. Next slide, please. When I reflect on this year and the times that we are currently living in, I can't help but look back at the skills and lessons learned at the very beginning of my career journey. We've seen the world come to a halt as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and it is true that it has disrupted our ways of working and living. For me, this has included the closure of our Shanghai facility to visitors, now thankfully not for our residents, the grounding of our many international residents, as well as me and my team, in places as far-flung as New Mexico and not so far away in Hong Kong, and the need to traverse a mountain of new government regulations meant to stem the spread of the pandemic to great effect. These challenges underscore the need to remain agile in everything we do, to be open to learning from even the hardest situations, and to be ready to adapt to new ways of working when challenges come knocking. As I've shared in my earlier life, change became normal for me right from the get-go, when I decided to switch from chemistry to biochemistry as an undergraduate in the face of failure. Then taking the unusual move to join a small, unheard of Japanese biotech startup versus my classmates' more traditional ambitions, and then take the leap from startup to big pharma, and then from big pharma to not-for-profit. Taking risks, remaining optimistic, and embracing agility. These cultural traits, I feel, have helped me to adapt and pivot with ease from one situation to another. In the face of the COVID-19 pandemic, we've all been negatively affected in one way or another. However, I've been inspired by our JLABS startups. It's been amazing to see nearly 1/5 of our entrepreneurs have been able to adapt and switch their current line of work into the fight against COVID, be it to prevent, diagnose, or help treat this new disease. And I've watched with pride as others have continued forging ahead, aiming to address other areas of unmet medical need despite daily challenges. At Johnson & Johnson, we've met this public health challenge with all the resources at hand. Locally, we've leveraged technology in ways we've never done before. I'm working closer than ever with Johnson & Johnson's Asia Pacific Innovation Center. Our scouting efforts have moved online, and our new ventures and transactions team have evaluated more new opportunities than ever in the areas of vaccines, antiviral, therapeutics, diagnostics, and consumer health. And as a wider organization, I couldn't be prouder that we are stepping up to do our part. Building on the groundbreaking science and platforms we already have in place from our pioneering work on other infectious diseases, such as Ebola, Zika, and HIV, Johnson & Johnson has worked around the clock with the aim to accelerate the development of a safe and effective vaccine for COVID-19. And as we reflect on the current status, we are preparing to rapidly scale up manufacturing capacity with the goal of providing a global supply of more than 1 billion doses of vaccine. We are delivering critical support for communities and health workers on the front lines. In March, the Johnson & Johnson family of companies and the Johnson & Johnson Foundation committed $50 million to support and supply frontline health workers. Our contributions, already hard at work, are delivering essential training and education, supporting mental health and well-being, fostering advocacy, helping to strengthen leadership and management skills, and ensuring frontline health workers are connected to each other, to communities, and to health systems. I'm reminded once again in my career journey that to make sustainable and scalable impact, we need partnerships with global multinational pharma organizations like Johnson & Johnson to ensure science can flourish and innovators can bring their potential healthcare solutions to the people who need them the most. And for me, with the decision to champion the community of entrepreneurs at JLABS and challenge them to be their best, I've picked a mission much bigger than myself. Switching gears now, next slide please. Let me say that no talk this year can ignore that across the globe, we are all facing a very important self-examination about race, diversity, equality, and inclusion. COVID has reminded each of us that we have a commitment to public health, starting off with the simplest of all tasks, such as washing our hands. COVID has also reminded us of our commitment to diversity and inclusion. And I expect and hope that we will see more real progress in this area as we begin to understand and embrace the value of differing opinions and perspectives. As a female working in what I feel is still a very male-dominated field in many countries, it's not hard to see the gender inequalities that are still unfortunately a common part of many people's realities. And the Black Lives Matter movement of this year and the overrepresentation of certain ethnic groups among COVID-19 patients highlights the structural racial inequalities still very present in society. At Johnson & Johnson, when looking at diversity and inclusion from the standpoint of innovation, we believe a great idea can come from anywhere. And I understand that to help find innovative, creative, and transformational solutions, I need to be open to and embrace diversity of thought. Embracing inclusion will help unlock the potential within all of us. One of my earliest childhood memories on embracing others was from my mother. For a number of years, she would volunteer our family home to host students from abroad to live with us, from France to Japan. I'm sure she did this to bring some extra income into our home, but my observation as a 7-year-old was that I had a responsibility to make my home their home and to make sure it was a place where they could be themselves, regardless of language, gender, race, religion, geography, and socioeconomic status. And as much as these foreign students who lived with us got to learn about my family, I really had a lot of fun and enjoyed playing with them, learning more about their cultural norms and making sure that they enjoyed their stay and wouldn't get homesick and want to leave. And today, my goal is much the same, to ensure that all are welcome and know that their ideas can have a home at Johnson & Johnson. Whether if it's my own team, the JLABS leadership team, or our startup companies, diversity and inclusion are critical. And for myself, as a JLABS site head, diversity is a clear bottom line metric that determines our success as a business or not. Next slide, please. Specifically, at JLABS, we measure the percentage of women and minorities who lead our companies. Over the past 8 years, our 13 JLABS incubator sites have allowed more than 650 startups to set up shop and grow. 30% of these companies are led by female CEOs and 29% are ethnic-led. And I'm personally committed to seeing these numbers rise. During our first 14 months of operations at JLABS at Shanghai, we've welcomed 42 resident companies, innovating across pharma, medical device, consumer, and digital health from mainland China, but also Hong Kong, Taiwan, Singapore, Korea, Australia, Belgium, Canada, and the United States, including both serial and first-time entrepreneurs. Day to day, I'm reminded how fortunate I am to have worked within organizations that have supported and celebrated the social, economic, and cultural achievements of women while also working to accelerate gender equality. Next slide, please. To conclude, I'd like to offer a few words of advice. The first is to find a mentor, someone you can look up to, someone who can challenge you and who is willing to invest in your progression. Strong mentorship has shaped who I am today. We aren't always lucky enough to have strong role models around us. So when the opportunity comes, which it will, grab it with all your might and leverage it, because there is a lot to be gained from a fresh perspective and support. And when it comes your turn, become a mentor. It's a deeply rewarding experience to witness firsthand the growth of talent, and an important one too. Secondly, don't be afraid to make a change or pivot to something different when you see an opportunity to pursue what you are most passionate about. Pivoting to something very different from what you are currently doing could be transformative and provide the building blocks for future success by giving you the perspective, skills, and experience needed to take the next leap. And my last but not least word of advice is to be your authentic self. Authenticity isn't about being totally transparent so people can see your flaws. It's about being open, sharing personal stories, positioning yourself and your points of view so that your customers, your team, your communities, and your shareholders understand how we can all bring our whole self to work every day. One of my favorite quotes is, "Life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others?" So go out, find your passion, serve others and your community. We can't just sit around. Hope is not passive, it's active. It calls for energy, courage, and collaboration. Working together, we can change the trajectory of health for humanity. I'd like to extend a big thank you to Chayora, Chan, and Johnson & Johnson for allowing me to share a few lessons that have shaped my life story and allowed me to play a fulfilling role to help shape the future of healthcare by working with and learning from an amazing group of entrepreneurs in Asia and around the world. Again, I'm humbled and honored to have been invited, and I hope my words have resonated with you and perhaps given you the courage to pursue your passion. Thank you and enjoy the rest of the meeting.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chan. That was incredibly inspiring. I took 2 pages of notes. I don't even know where to start, but just what JLABS is doing and your heading there is just incredible. The 3 startups that have come out of the efforts so far, the funding that you're raising, the mentorship, the reskilling and agility, making a change or pivot. I mean, it's exceptional. I mean, the fight, 1/5 is switched to the fight against COVID. I mean, incredibly inspiring and so much information that you've just given us. So we did have one question that came in, but I do want to be respectful of the 90 minutes that we have together. So I have copied that question and we'll follow up. So I encourage folks to ask questions in 3 different ways. One here on the chat, thank you, I've recorded that. The second is at the end, we will have how to contact each of the speakers and the groups, the network groups. And then number 3, we do have a survey that will come out immediately after this that has just 5 questions. Please do not hesitate to put your questions in there, and we absolutely will respond to those that you're directing the question to. So again, thank you so much, Dr. Chan. And next slide, please, Kat. Okay, so next up is our if you will, the meat of our sharing here today on the heels of Dr. Chan's inspiration is what I'm going to respectfully call our content. So I'm going to ask the leaders of each of our communities to come back into video. And what I am going to do is ask a question directed to each leader and give us their perspective and best practices of what they're seeing around the globe. So I will start by education and reskilling. So leaders are making bold choices in their organization to respond to the seismic changes that we're seeing today. Success is being described as the next normal that starts with education and reskilling and agility. So Georgia, what do you feel upskilling and reskilling is essential for every generation of the workforce? What is your comments there?
So basically, I mean, the reason why it's essential is because, kind of like you said, we're evolving as industries so rapidly that we are constantly finding new roles and capabilities that previously didn't exist. So even, as an example, when one of my very good friends was studying for her master's in engineering, immediately, head of the course kind of came out and said, we are training you right now for jobs that do not exist yet. And, you're going to go out and you're going to do those jobs. And then in a few years, even after that, your degree is technically obsolete. And, it's up to you to keep kind of training that and keeping it up. So that's just, just kind of to show that in that short space, that's how quickly we're evolving. So that's even just at the graduate level. But even if we look, especially in the digital skills, the really kind of important kind of crux of this question is that the skills gap is widening faster than the talent pool can grow. And we physically can't be filling that with just these incoming graduates, especially given that only around like a quarter of the digital positions today are held by women. So being able to help professionals, especially female professionals, develop their careers in the sector, it kind of seems like the obvious solution of, okay, well, if we can't fill the skills gap with just the graduates and the amount of women that are studying for computer science and related topics in schools and colleges are going down every year still, we need alternative routes into that sector to enable us to kind of land that talent and to satisfy that demand. So it's about looking at people that maybe aren't taking the traditional educational route and through apprenticeship programs and internships that we can offer those alternative routes. It's also looking at the people that are currently in our organization that maybe are looking to, as Dr. Sharon Chan said, pivot to a more technical role. So having that capacity in our organizations to help kind of reskill our workforce to do the things that we need done, ultimately, and kind of help ourselves. And then the other great opportunity there as well is for a lot of people that take career breaks. So they can use that time, or even us as an organization, if someone's looking to come back as part of that returnship, it's also looking at, well, is there any kind of new skill that you want to learn, or even a lot of people now are taking that time through these career breaks to actually reskill or upskill, as we want to say. And we're seeing a huge emergence of programs and accredited courses kind of around the world that are providing these opportunities, especially in the tech space. So it's one of these, I think, kind of these great things where not only do we have a really big need as digital industries to fill it, but we're also seeing that interest from a lot of individuals who maybe, 10, 15 years ago wouldn't have considered it and are now saying, hang on, I can absolutely do that. And that sounds really great. So I want to, and they're taking coding courses or other things, and they're finding great kind of success in our sector. But yeah, we definitely need more of that. Otherwise, we're never actually gonna kind of get where we need to be as a sector, where we want to be, and kind of increase that. And it's just so great having those alternative opportunities, because of course, the more diversity of thought we have, the more innovative we will be. So it's a great kind of thing for organizations to push forward, and ultimately we're kind of just helping ourselves by doing it.
Right, absolutely. Thank you. I mean, I think again, agility is key. The fact that what you do today, you think about what that job may lead into, or some is going obsolete, or there's a pandemic that is out that refocuses. So the reskilling is absolutely critical. So thank you, Georgia. Okay, so for diversity and inclusion, Sarah, 75 by 2025, 75% of the global workforce will be millennials, and they're increasing and seeking and acquiring leadership roles. Research has indicated that around 80% of the millennial generation consider company policy on diversity, equality, and inclusion doing jobs. When we talk about diversity, we tend to focus on the difference, but it's really our similarities that bind us together, and our differences is what adds to the mix. So Sarah, please share with us your experience, why diversity and inclusion is important on a global platform.
Absolutely. I mean, quite frankly, as a really simple answer is diversity and inclusion is important on a global platform because it works, because it's been proven to work over and over and over again, and there is no downside to it. Currently in the United States, 20% of positions in tech are held by women, yet we make up over half of the workforce. And only 38% of companies in the US actually set targets for gender representation. But the reality is that it improves things on different factors. So for example, diversity produces smarter and better results. Similar to what Georgia was just saying, this agility. Women think differently. We approach issues differently. And the only way that companies are going to continue to achieve imaginative and creative ideas means we need people from different backgrounds to put it together. Like she said, we have jobs out there that we don't even know that they exist yet. And we can't expect to get there based on the same old of relying upon the existing workforce and the existing thought patterns that we have within that workforce. Bringing diversity in is just expanding your thought pool that much more. Diversity also generates revenue. I mean, at the end of the day, business is in the business of making money. Many studies show that gender diversity and the companies that focus on this and embrace it, they produce better profits. Companies with women on their executive teams, on average, are 21% more likely to outperform in their respective industry than those who do not have women on their executive teams. One study showed that when you have women going from no women leaders to just 30% women leadership, your company can increase net revenue by a minimum of 15%. I don't know any company out there that wouldn't fall over backwards to try to increase revenues by 15%. Another study showed that women who lead private technology companies on average achieve a 35% higher ROI. And then when they are also venture backed, they bring in 12% higher revenue than male-owned tech companies that are privately smaller owned as well. Another reason for gender and diversity and inclusion is, it's tech for women by women. Women influence the majority of consumer spending around the world. They hold the majority of household budgets, and they're the ones that spend money. Having women involved in technology means that their needs are going to be more representative. And you're going to have then more female-oriented products that are going to be created that then these women who influence consumer spending are going to go out and buy. Diversity is also, when we talk about the future, it's also hugely important for future technology advances. Everyone's heard the stories about AI. The fact that when AI is created without the involvement of women or people of color, the technology does not perform with parity, because it is assuming the eye of its creators. There have been studies that showed that the AIs that are out there, when they were created by a group of white men sitting in a room, they were not able to identify clearly the faces between people of color or clearly identify between women. As we head towards lives that are going to be more and more integrated with technology, from bringing these tools into our homes, to having our companies work with them, to having our governments work with them, we need to make sure that technology actually works for all of us, and which means we need all of us to be involved in its creation. And then going into the future a little bit more, diversity only strengthens our industries overall. There is, like I said before, nothing but upside. We need to increase diversity across the board, whether that be women, people with disabilities, people with color, people in the LGBTQ communities, because without representation, we can't hope to engage the younger generations who want to join our ranks and convince them to stay in the industries. By encouraging these people, we will have more qualified practitioners available to do our jobs as they exist now, and then also the jobs that will be created as our industry continues to evolve.
Excellent. I mean, again, so many excellent points there. I mean, that's where I would say stronger together, right? That bringing the diversity, AI, future technology, bringing up the younger generation, and revenue. Not only would I add to revenues, but again, wrapping it back into the pandemic that we're doing, revenues and solutions to bring people together of all diverse backgrounds across the globe. So fantastic insight there. Thank you. So for innovation, we've just heard from Dr. Chan about the incredible work that she's heading at JLABS. I mean, again, 2 pages of notes that was incredibly insightful. What I liked about it is that, within the JLABS, there's 30% female-led companies, as well as a diverse background as well across the platform. So Sue, what do you feel is the #1 driver that innovation can lead positive impact for communities in China and around the globe?
Sue, you're muted.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you. I think there's
no, I couldn't see your lips to see if you were muted or not.
I get so excited and I'm like, oh, forgot to unmute myself. So as I was saying that I'm just very excited when I listen to Sarah and Georgia and their excitement in their voices and their passion. And this is exactly where I come from in regards to this as an entrepreneur. This is really my third try at entrepreneurship. I started in corporate at Boeing and United Technologies, so I really completely understand the point of view of having diversity, inclusion, and all that. And this is why, when I was at Boeing, man, it was a real aerospace, a real male-dominant industry back then, and it still continues to be. So when I look at that, and then now fast forward to like starting this my third entrepreneur endeavor as a serial entrepreneur, where I like to really call myself social enterprise, is because I believe in doing good. And I really appreciate what Dr. Chen said, is that, there's a service I feel very strongly about serving the community, and especially the community that we derive our, living from, which I have been blessed here in China. So the key driver, in my opinion, is women entrepreneurs and startups. I'm so glad to hear that, Dr. Chen is personally committed to increase the number of women entrepreneurs, because really studies have shown that women entrepreneurs, women who start their own company, reinvest upwards of 90% of their revenue back into their companies and their communities, thereby growing the economy. And believe it or not, there's studies shown that women who start their companies, many of them are service and so forth, are profitable within the first year. 90% of them are profitable. So they're very, very good and nimble and innovative in order to really be able to get the return on their investment. Okay, many people ask me, well, why not men? It's not about men entrepreneurs that they don't contribute, but it's the opportunity. I mean, right now, if you look at it, men are doing it. Men are going out there and they're starting their own business and so forth, and there's no fear. And women are just under leverage, as we say. So there's a report that shows women entrepreneur report here in China accounts for 1/4 of the total number of entrepreneurs in China, where 27.9% of the women entrepreneurs who start their companies are between the age of 31 to 35, while the age of 26 to 30 is 41.86%. And I know the numbers are probably way higher. So I'm so encouraged. The good news is that the women are starting their own companies, are getting younger, and that is wonderful. And they're starting to choose to be in the industries that are predominantly male dominant, such as technology, internet, financing, and so forth. So that is good news. But what does that mean then? That means we need to support entrepreneurs. We need to buy, and as Sarah was mentioning, we often forget that we're the purchasing officers of our families, of our companies. So make those dollars worth your voice by purchasing from companies who are committed on the journey of like diversity, inclusion, and supporting buying from women and so forth. I mean, there's companies like Walmart. I mean, 80 to 90% of their major consumers are women, that shop there. So, for example, that should be a real driver for them to be thinking about women and how to support women entrepreneurs as well as within their companies. So I think purchasing power is something that we have not leveraged well on, and I think we should really look at that when we move forward and utilize that. So basically, we're talking about over $32 trillion in annual global spend. That kind of power we need to leverage on.
Very nice, very nice. I mean, again, some critical things there. I mean, I see a theme, nimble, reinvesting, right? How women look at facing and solving differently. The purchasing power. I mean, several of you brought that up, and I couldn't agree with you more. So thank you, Sue. So my last question is to the entire panel. So we've heard from Georgia, Sarah, and Sue. Their experiences driving impact for education, diversity and inclusion, and innovation. A key to building this global movement, that why we are come here together, stronger together, is for women and male champions, is providing a platform that everyone is a source of potential ideas. That is where innovation, diversity and inclusion and education shines, when we come together with those ideas and we share in that platform. So the last question to the panel members here is, what is one piece of practical advice that you would give someone looking to join a female community with male champions, such as the three that are represented here today and JLABS, right? So what would be the one piece of advice that you would give to join a community today, and provides a place for gender issues and equality to be discussed without judgment? So I'll start with Georgia.
So I guess my one piece of advice, so if you're looking to join a community that kind of already exists, I definitely just say, I mean, it all starts with showing up. Show up and bring a notebook, really. That's kind of where we give all of our practical advice there. Ask questions. So that's just kind of speak up and show that you're there and get involved. That's kind of how we all get our ideas, and we directions that our organizations go into. They go into it because of what people tell us and the feedback that we get. So just kind of reach out and speak up. We're all friendly. We all kind of want to hear from you, and we love new people. So do that. And then the only other kind of like small but secondary piece of advice is just when you are at events or anything, find the organizers and tell them that you want more diversity and inclusion at these events. It's kind of through people kind of showing a mirror to the events industry, where we're seeing the manels or the pale, male, and stale, consistent speakers, that's changing now, and that our industry is changing from that too. So do kind of share your voice, go to the people in charge, and kind of say, hey, I want to see something different. Right. But yeah, that's it for me.
Fantastic. Thank you. Sarah.
Yeah, I'm going to echo Georgia. Tip number one is show up. There are a variety of opportunities out there, and you don't know until you show up whether or not this is going to be a group that's going to be good for you or not. And the nice thing about sort of the way that I think all of our individual groups approach the world is that we're not looking to be the be-all, end-all women in technology group. We understand that every group is going to have its own little niche. We're going to have our own focus, and we're able to then support each other through this. So it is show up and introduce yourself and make a connection. I am someone personally who hates networking with a passion. I despise it.
Never know that.
Yeah, I know. I put on a great face, but oh God, do I hate it. But it is amazing what happens when you just introduce yourself, and you will find a group of people that are going to be open and welcoming to having you there. And then secondly, I would say also take the opportunity to educate yourself. Make sure that you have an understanding of what are the issues that are important to you, and that will then also help you decide what group it is that you're looking for. There are any number of studies out there, different white papers that are written, and really taking the opportunity to educate yourself as opposed to only listening to whatever your company says or whatever the single group that you're looking at joining says. You are absolutely allowed and encouraged and should have your own opinion.
Absolutely. Well said. Be prepared, educate yourself, what's a good fit for you, and what you're looking for. Fantastic. Sue, your piece of advice.
Wow, I have so many, and Sarah and Georgia. And of course, definitely show up, engage, involved, all of that. But one thing recently for myself personally, as I'm going through a coaching journey, is that be aware. I mean, I love how Sarah, and I think this is something about when you're younger, you're just more free and open and less, jaded in many ways. But we're like,
The
sometimes
innocence of asking the questions.
just want to say anything. But for sure, being aware, and I sometimes had to catch myself, especially with the Black Lives Matter and so forth, to say, what are my own unconscious biases? Both gender, race, everything. So I have to question myself. And so I think self-awareness is something that if we can all kind of think about individually, because that actually goes to, or when we go to events and so forth, if you're self-aware, well, why am I not, going to that person and talking to that person, so being aware of that will give you the encouragement and confidence to do that. And I think we all, as both men and women, need to be on this journey. And this is why I love this platform, because, we're 50, a little bit more % of the population globally. And if we stand together, work together, and think of the pie being bigger, get there faster. And so it starts in many ways with us and moving that needle forward. So I say, take action, join a group, whatever group that may be, and let your voices be heard. Thank you.
Fantastic. And I mean, one of the things just listening to the board is, when we come together as a group and we share ideas, it's a comment that I made earlier. We come together because there's something similar that we want to talk about, but then we find all these ideas and differences that you walk away to be inspired and look at, something that you might not have looked at before that way, or in every conversation that you're going to have when you meet someone, you're going to learn something, or think about, what do I learn, or what did I learn from that conversation, or how can I build upon, some knowledge that I have today that can be leveraged on a global platform. So thank you. That was fantastic. Kat, next slide, please. So we have 8 minutes left in our call today. So I have 2 slides, and I really wanted to share with the broader our guest here. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining, and to our speakers. I felt that we've accomplished exactly what our mission when we came together as a team to help provide communities and networks to each other, so we can expand and we can cross the border, and we can, reach out to folks that are interested in connecting with in Europe and the US and in China, and that survey comes back, I'd like to see vision is to say, maybe next time the Women Tech Forum hosts the event and we join on, right? Or maybe it's a new community that, we bring in and we host it in, the US, and we have we have a spotlight on, China, or I'm sorry, Seattle, or in Washington, D.C., or something like that, of an inspiring leader to speak. Again, we're going to send this out, but this is each of the groups and speakers and the contact information. So if you have questions, comments, or anything that you'd like to talk about, please feel free to reach out and to join these communities. So there you go. This will be distributed. And also, I would encourage all of the guests that showed today, please go onto LinkedIn and connect with us, right? Go onto the groups and connect directly with the groups themselves to their websites as well. So next slide. And this is our last slide. So what's next? So again, please give us your feedback. We did 5 questions in the survey, 5 questions only. Scan it really quickly while it's fresh in your mind, if you wouldn't mind to go. And then again, tell us, would you like to see a virtual event like this hosted around the globe. So, in 3 to 6 months, would you like to see GWTT host one out of London? Would you like to see Sarah's team WTF host one out of Seattle? So let us know your thoughts. Our goal is to rotate sponsoring a virtual event around the globe to bring in the communities, to highlight education, to bring in diversities, to bring in male champions, and to talk about innovation. So again, thank you so much to the speakers. Thank you so much to Women's Advisory Council. It's a delight to be a member of that group on the behalf of Chayora. I think some of the work that we're doing there is incredibly inspiring within China and can be repeated really across the globe. And again, thank you for all of our guests to join. So with that, we'll end and have a wonderful evening, morning, wherever you are in the world. Thank you, Georgia. I know it's very early for you.
No worries.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. Dr. Chen. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.